Good evening, friends and family, and thank you for coming to another night with Repair, Restore, and Grow Black Communities. And as you know, we are a nonprofit organization, and we are working to enhance the awareness and support of Black businesses here in Chicago. And there's so many different areas that we have to address when we're talking about that. And so tonight we have Gary Dingle, who is the president of the Far South Suburban branch of the NAACP. And we know the NAACP has been around for a long time. They are an organization, and we've had so many organizations that have done so much great work in our communities. And so this is definitely one that we want to find out more about and want you to know more about and be supportive of. So, Gary, I want to thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you, and I appreciate you having me on. And this is an exciting moment for me to do something like this. That we I was saying before, this is. I appreciate you having me on to talk about the NAACP. One of the things I want to talk about is myself and how I got involved with NAACP. And many years ago, I joined. I tried to join back when I was living in Maryland. And my background is I was born in Miami. I lived in Baltimore. I lived in Miami. And then I lived in upstate New York before I came here. But while I was in Maryland, I tried to join the branch. And me and a co-worker, we went and tried to join the Washington, D.C. branch. And it just didn't work out. I was a lot younger then, and it just didn't seem right. But as I got older and things stopped getting improving, and I always appreciated NAACP and the work they were doing because I knew what they were doing, and I knew that what we needed them. So what happened was when I moved to Chicago area, I moved to Homewood, Illinois. I had a coworker who just became president of the branch. So background was in science and technology, and at the time I knew how to build websites. So she asked me to build a website for the branch. It was the first website the branch had ever had, and so I built that for her. And then somehow, less than a year and a half later, I was vice president. I don't know how it happened, but somehow I became vice president. And from that point on, my interest in what they were doing, it kept expanding and growing. And so one of the things I
Well,
have to say.
let me ask you a question here. A lot of people have heard of the NAACP. Some people have had some dealings with the NAACP, directly. But first, I want you to tell us what is the NAACP and their mission for our people.
Well, the mission for the NAACP is to basically, I could actually read it, but I'm not going to read it. I'm going to tell you what I get from it. The mission is to make sure every person, actually, especially African Americans, have equal access to everything that everybody else has. It could be jobs, it could be education, it could be banking, everything. It's a constant pressure we have to put on a system to give us the rights we should have. Uh, One of the things that's important is that the way the NAACP work is they work the through the legal system. They believe in protesting, of course, but they do believe in enacting laws and basically pointing out laws and pointing out things that need to be changed because of laws. A quick story. When I was growing up in Miami, my neighbor was Attorney Graves, and Attorney Graves was sitting out front in front of his house one day, and he had a shotgun in his hand. And I said, Mr. Graves, what are you doing? He said, well, some people say they're coming to get me. I said, who? He said it was a KKK. And then he explained to me what happened was what he did. He actually worked with Thurgood Marshall. They got together and they enabled black people to ride in the front of the bus. And so ride with any seat on the bus they wanted to at any time. And because of that, they were after him. And then he told me about the NAACP, and I was about 14 years old. And that's when he told me, and that's when I learned about it. What they did together is exactly what we do now. We file we get our lawyers together, we file suits, we sue them if we have to, we fight them in court, and we make the changes that are necessary. And that's the way we work. Now, what we don't do is get into violent protests. Now, we try to avoid that. That's one of the things that we just, I mean, they never did. And sometimes people, they took it, they felt that wasn't enough. There wasn't enough by not getting into these violent protests. But there was always a legal way because, and the legal ways work because we have a democracy and we have laws in place.
Well, Gary, what do you see as the greatest civil rights challenge that is facing Black communities today?
The challenge, the greatest of race challenge I see is the fact that we move ahead a few miles. I'm using miles as a narrative for this, and then we slide back a half a mile. And in other words, we make gains, but then they slide back. And the question people have is why does this happen?
Yeah, that was going to be my question.
My answer to that is that it's a little bit of ignorance, a lot of ignorance, and a lot of people never learn, never understand the laws of this country and the Constitution. So what happens is, what I've seen in my time, I'm 74 years old. I don't know if I told you that, but what I've seen in my time is that I've seen where uh, people were very aware in the 70s about, the legal rights attributed to every citizen in this country, including black people. They, now, if you talk to young people, they have no idea. They have no idea that that's happening right now in the White House is illegal. That they're doing things, and
Uh,
because of that, people slide back. And so we have to make sure our young people, the black people, understand the Constitution, understand their legal rights, and they have to understand when they're being discriminated against. Because a lot of them don't even know that, and you have to make sure the little white kids make sure they know what the law is, so that they'll be able to talk to they'll be able to know when they're doing something wrong. And so
well,
legally, but
a lot of our people today, our young people today, they don't know the laws, and they don't know the history.
they don't.
Don't know the history of this country.
They
And
don't.
when you talk to them about a lot of things, they're, I never heard that. And then you see, as today, there's this great push to cover up and not even talk about the history, because as you talk about the laws, you have to talk about the history.
Yeah.
And so
Right now,
there's a big cover up going on with that. They don't
right,
want to talk about it in the schools. You talk about too many things. You have people feeling traumatized. And
exactly. Yeah.
so
Right now,
how do we circumvent that?
the way we circumvent it. Look, I've been telling people. I talked to everybody. I said you have to fight it verbally and on paper every time chance you get. Don't be hesitant. Don't be a coward. I've talked to, I've had white women tell me and white men tell me, well, their family, they have family, and they're afraid. I said, look, there comes a time when you got to stand up and stop being a coward, and because what they're doing is proposing hurting people just because of the color of their skin. I mean, not physically hurt, but hurting them in banking, hurting them in education, in employment, where they live, how they live, you know. what happens to them. Because black communities are sacrificial zones. This is what happens because they don't get it. They think it's just business when actually it's just, they're sacrificing black people for their profit. So
So how are, we have many organizations, that
yes,
have been very impactful in the past as far as helping Black people to progress and to move forward. Um, and so, given that you're saying, people have a lack of knowledge, how is the NAACP adapting to that?
well, normally in normal times, like we've just got a grant to go out and educate people about voting, about how to vote, when to vote, and how to vote intelligently. We got a grant to do that, and we have a program we started. It's called the Build Grant, and that came straight from National. We got money to do that, and that's one of the things that they're doing. They're making sure we get out and educate people, young people, and what we're doing is we're looking at gathering about 15 young people. They can be anyway. We prefer that they be voting age, but they don't have to be. But they have to be old enough to understand what they're doing, obviously. And what they'll do, they'll go out and they'll recruit people. They'll go to schools and they'll do the actual voting registrations and everything, or and they just teach them how to register to vote. So we're looking for 15 people right now. In fact, we just had our first meeting a couple of days ago. We had our first meeting, and that was the topic, reaching out to young people, and we're going to have a big event coming up. It'll either be on the 10th of January or to be on the 24th. We're hoping to be on the 10th because the earlier the better. We want to get started on this right away. So that's one of the things that we're doing that NAACP is pushing. Another thing they're pushing is to get more young people involved with the NAACP because so many of them young people, they may have heard about it, but they don't know exactly what it is, or they may have never heard of it. And so we're reaching out to the young people and trying to get them involved in what we're doing and the things that need to be done. And we want to make sure they understand the laws. You have to understand, what if they get pulled over by a police officer, they have to know their rights. And that's one of the things we push in our branch. We have a retired law enforcement. It's my first vice president. His name is Elvis Slaughter, and he's a pretty good author. He writes a lot of books too. But it turns out, he teaches a class called Know Your Rights, and we bring them in, and we go out to the schools, and we teach them how to interact with police officers if they get pulled over or stopped for anything. So these are things that we have to do. But here's the thing: you have to look at the numbers. You have to look at the numbers and number of people that are out there. And even when we do what we do, it's not enough because we can hit about 500 kids over a period of maybe a year. But what percentage of that is the school age population or kids, people about to graduate from high school and go to college? It's a very small percentage. So these are the kind of things that we do, but we need to just do more of it, and get everybody involved. So
Well, you
that's
mentioned voting, um, and one of the issues with voting is, we fought for voting rights, but it seems as though even though we have the right to vote, the constraints are still there.
right.
And you're asking young people to get involved and to vote, and I'm sure a lot of their reluctance is, well, what is the point? What am I voting for? And so, it makes you look at, the civil rights, in terms of how has civil rights changed compared to earlier generations. In
Right.
earlier generations, our organizations moved to help Black people to get, as you say, racial equality,
Right.
equity.
Right.
Um, and then as you said, we have slid back and we have lost. And so there needs to be conversations about what are we doing about that. We're
Yes.
losing. We're going to get into this conversation a little later too about the taxes and about the gentrification of our communities and our businesses.
Hmm.
I just talked to one of the restaurant owners here in South Shore. He has a very nice restaurant, and him and his wife tonight said, okay, this is the last night until the first of the year because they're going to Ghana to look at possibly starting opening up a restaurant there. And I know this person knows how to run a business,
Right.
and they had a hard time getting support and getting finances. And I'm gonna tell you, when you ride around Chicago here and you go to the north side and you go to the west side and you come to the south side, the north side is blowing up.
Yeah, it is.
The
Yep.
economy there, all of the businesses are there, and a black person wants to open up a little restaurant here, and they have to go through all kind of hoops and loops. So we have to look at the realities of what people are facing today, and we're
Right.
constantly asking people to vote, and we
Yeah.
want them to get involved, and there's been a lot of pushback against that because they're saying, what's the point?
Right. And that's absolutely right. And the thing is, yeah, but if you think about it, this is what I tell people. I told a young person, in fact, not maybe a week ago, I was talking to a young person, and he asked me a similar question, about. Well, I said, well, look, when I was 5 years old, my father took me and my brother downtown Miami to get by us corn dogs because that was a novelty back then, So we go down to the five and dime, and he stands in line, and right, and every time a white person walk up, they would jump in front of him because that's what the law said. That was the protocol back then. My father couldn't say anything. So we stood in line. I kept looking. And as 5 year old, I was trying to figure out what's going on here because I know we were standing there. I was smart enough to know. Me and my brother looked at each other. He was a year older than me, and so we looked. And then finally, nobody was. Whether a white person walked up, nobody was there. My father walked up to the counter, and the guy walked away. Now that's what happened in 1956. So in 1962. This is all related. Now, there was progress from that point to 1962, but this is what happened to my mother and my brother. And that's another crazy story. My brother went to the hospital. Same one. He was a year older than me. He was 12. I was 11. He went to the hospital multiple times, 4 times. They told my mother that he's not eating and he's getting weak. Well, he was getting weak and he was eating. He goes into the hospital and the last time, and he passes away, right? But they never looked at him because back then they had voting, and they voted in Congress people who decided that they was going to connect with the insurance companies and the healthcare. And one of the things they said was if a child came in and he didn't have an infection, they couldn't no fever, they could send him home. They send him home 3 times, 4 times when he died, and come to find out he had a twisted intestine, and the doctor had the nerve to tell my mom that, well, we could have fixed that in 45 minutes. So
Well,
there's a difference. So here, that was 1962. Now, and the reason it happened was because they changed the laws about your children, but they only enforced it in the black communities. I found out later, and I was 11 at the time, and I did a lot of research, and I got older. By the time I was 20 some years old, I figured out what happened. But because they voted in some people who cared nothing about black people, now you gotta vote because that's the start for everything. If we don't vote, this is what I tell them: if you don't vote, we're gonna be down the tubes a lot faster, and we won't have a voice in anything. So, and you're right, it doesn't work all the time. And now what we're seeing now, we're seeing them trying to take away our power of the vote by redistricting, and that's one of the things that we have to fight too. And NAACP has been fighting that tooth and nail. So they sued states, they've been suing localities about redistricting because what they're doing is taking away our voting power. So these are the kind of things that we have to be aware of. And the other thing that's happening in the south suburbs because of the voting is that they're going to sacrifice the south suburbs to industrial. This is what they're trying to do. And everywhere you look, they put up industrial, and it does not do anything to enhance the community because the people, the industries that work in those industrial areas, they don't need a town to do what they're doing. They don't need a town. They don't care. And so the towns go down the tubes. And you look at Harvey. Harvey has a lot of industrial going on in there, but they're going down the tubes. They don't have no money.
Well, it sounds like part
So
of
we
a
have to vote.
it sounds like part of a plan to me. It
It's
doesn't sound like something that just happened. But Tax Doctor is on with
right.
us. Um,
Right.
how are you this evening?
Oh, I'm doing fine. I just got off a Zoom with the IVIPO, getting them to support our movement about these taxes and the tax bill where we will move away from the property taxes and fund education by way of the general fund. So we're seeking to have a study done, and Senator Collins informed us that she will pick up that bill and carry it. So we're waiting on her to file it and get a bill number. And we still got to get someone in the House to do the same, carry it. But that's a start in the right direction. The other issue that we want to look at is Proposition 13 out of California. That is certain parts of Prop 13 we need in Illinois. And what I mean by that, there's a provision whereby you can only get your house reassessed when you get ready to sell it. Number two, when it comes to regentrification, if somebody buy the property next door to you and they tear it down and build $1 million structure, it has no bearing on your property. Okay? That's the type of policies we need in Illinois.
So if they build $1 million structure, then that runs up the value and the taxes of your
Yes.
property.
That's
Good.
only that's only when you don't have a Proposition 13 type of structure in the law. As long as we keep things like they are, then that $1 million structure would drive up your property value and drive up your taxes. And that's what's happening now.
Mm-hmm.
That's driving people out of these properties because if I build $1 million structure next door to you, your property value is going to go up and your tax is going to go up. And you didn't do nothing to make that happen. That was an investor. And we want to put an end to that. So it's going to be in our best interest to have what we call regional town hall meetings where we educate the population on all this stuff. Then the other thing that we want to look at too is we need a con. People say, well, what's a con? A con is a constitutional convention for 2028. If our legislators who have a supermajority in the House and Senate, if they cannot fix these problems, then folks, we need to do it. And that's why we need to have a a constitutional convention, like we had in 1970. What happened in 1970, 55 years ago, is the reason why we got half these problems we got today.
So this is where I think organizations like the NAACP can be involved in terms of helping to educate people
Absolutely.
Mhm.
about this
Yeah.
process. Because obviously, when I look at when I look at, and even I was a little girl at the time, but the difference, as you said earlier, between what was happening then during the civil rights movement and our civil rights today is our lack of involvement.
Yes.
And if you compare us to other communities that are thriving, again, it is our lack of involvement,
Mm-hmm.
and it's our lack of knowledge about the laws and what we can do. So this is very important, and I think when people can see, Gary, a direct relationship between coming to a meeting and getting something done, and coming to a meeting or voting and getting something done, I think the participation will increase. But
Yes.
been too many meetings and too much voting, and we have been doing nothing but losing.
Right.
That is so true.
Yes. Yeah.
Unfortunately, we're going to have to take a position that we need some new leadership. And what that means is some of these old guys that's been in office for too long, they need to go, because the NAACP, the Urban League, and Push, Action Action Network, these are our civil rights organizations. And I think the biggest mistake that was made by the civil rights community was not understanding economics. And I think in Dr. King later days, before he was assassinated, he was moving in that direction. Now, Marcus Garvey already talked about economics. Booker T talked about economics. Okay. And when you think about what happened in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and as Malcolm X said, the worst thing that the white man done to us, he taught us to hate ourselves and hate each other. Don't trust each other. And the residue of slavery still exists. Okay. Because unlike the Hispanic community, they come from a country. They were not put in slavery like we were. They come from a country where they saw businesses thriving. When you go to the various Hispanic communities, from Cermak Road to Melrose Park, Little Village, Humboldt Park, they got their businesses are thriving.
But
Yes,
also they're given the opportunity to do that.
yes,
We have to acknowledge and be honest. When black people come together and try to do something collectively to develop communities, it
yes.
is not in the best interest of other people.
Well, because
And,
we
it,
are,
and it's part of
yeah,
this system and how this system is working. And
yes,
other people, the Hispanics, the Arabs, the Asians, the Koreans, everybody that come here understands that. What who black people, it's like black people who were descendants of enslaved people here in this country have been put in a position of usury. And
yeah,
everybody come in our community. You go through our community now and look at the businesses, look at the Dunkin' Donuts and all of them. Who are they owned by? Not by people in our community. And that is supported. But if we start, just like Tulsa, Oklahoma,
yes,
start to do things like that,
yes,
then is something wrong with it. There's an assault, there's a pushback against us. It's like everybody is with the legs under the table,
Mm-hmm.
and nobody wants to move us out of that position. It's important to keep black people in that position.
right. I
And if it don't, then everybody else falls down.
I have a copy of this book called Long Road to Liberty: Oklahoma African American History and Culture.
That,
When I went to Oklahoma, the 100th anniversary of Tulsa, I saw this book. This book gives you all of the black towns that was created in Oklahoma
Mm-hmm.
and what they went through from the Great Depression to the massacre. It was not a riot like they want us to believe.
That's
It
right.
was a massacre.
Hmm.
Okay, and they still did not get paid for what happened to them. Okay,
No.
everybody should have a copy of this book.
I'm
We we
gonna get my copy. I've heard of that book. I got so many books I have to read.
we
Well,
So,
we have to begin to understand that capitalism is not a 30 word, but capitalism needs some guardrails because pure capitalism is dangerous. And we don't operate pure capitalism in America. It has a little socialism in it. I mean, that's what Social Security is. That's what the VA system is. That's all part of socialism. Okay. So you're going to have a little bit of both. But we need to be about the business of creating jobs, creating wealth, so that 20 years from now, we ain't talking like this. We want to be able to ride off into the sunset because our children is taken care of and they understand why you got to have businesses in your community. There's
so let
there's
me ask, let
hold
me,
it 1 second.
okay.
There's two there's two concepts we need to comprehend. Economic empowerment and economic development. When you have economic empowerment, you have a stake in that business. You own it. Anybody can come into your community and develop your community. We don't want that no more. We should want to be the stakeholders in our community. And once we begin to do that, hey, look, I can't get upset because you upset because I don't want to spend my money with you no more. That's going to have to be our rationale. We're going to have to change our way of thinking. I want to show you. Let me put it this way. I want to thank you very much for having this podcast and highlighting businesses because we need this. Our young people need to see stuff like this. And it'll probably be good to bring some young folks on so that they can understand why what you're doing is so valuable to our community and to our mindset. So I want to thank you.
Well, what we're doing is we're saying to people, we have to support our businesses.
Yes.
And these are the businesses that we have out here. This is who these people are.
Yes.
And that's been our mantra. That's been our mission. But it's coming back more and more in many conversations about educating our people, educating our people about the laws, about the political process,
Mm-hmm.
about how to make the changes that need to be made. This
Yes.
is what people like Thurgood Marshall was
exactly.
excellent
Right.
at
He was
doing,
awesome.
Yeah. And what?
organizing people and giving the right information. So
Yes.
Gary, you're with the NAACP, and you're pushing. You know how to organize. You know what laws are. You know what those laws out are and how they impact our community, and that needs to be a major focus in getting that information out here so people know how to arm themselves.
Exactly. And one of the things we want to make sure, at least my perspective, is that you have to make sure they understand why they have to know the laws. They have to understand. They have to. A lot of times you talk to young people, they don't think they need to know that.
Yeah.
They think they're doing okay. And we have to make sure they understand why they must understand the laws, and they have to understand when they're being discriminated against. They have to know this. And a lot of times they don't know it. So we have to the education part is what you do after you convince them they need to be educated, because they won't do it, or if they do try to take some type of education, they won't keep it. They want to absorb it, and it won't be part of their personality. What they need to know is why they have to have this knowledge, because if they don't have it, they will not be successful in just about anything they want to do. You have to know the knowledge. You have to know why you need to know it. And the first thing, when I talk to a young person about voting, I explain to them why they have to vote. And I tell them the story about what happened. Because people, when they voted for those congressmen and they enacted those laws, and that was the first time I even heard of insurance. They killed my brother in that hospital because they could do it and they got away with it. And see, the thing is, they now, they changed that. By the way, you don't have to have an infection to stay in the hospital, because they only did it in black communities. I found out. So, like I was saying, the thing is, we have to know the laws. We have to understand that their ignorance is dangerous, and it is counteractive to what they want to do in life. It's counteracted to them having a decent life, being ignorant. So the thing is, once they understand they need to know, then I'm pretty sure they'll jump in and they'll learn what they need to learn. And in fact, we probably won't even have to push it on them. They'll go out and look for it. And so that's what we need to do. Make sure they understand why they need to know.
Well,
And that's
I
that's what I
think
do when I talk to young people about
I think
voting.
what the tax doctor is talking about in terms of something that means something to people, because a lot of people are so busy working every day. You got people out here, many people out here working 2 or 3 jobs,
Mm-hmm.
and they're so
Yeah.
busy doing this. If you don't put something in front of them that makes sense and is going to impact that,
Yeah.
they don't want to hear anything about voting. And so coming forward and saying, okay, our communities are being gentrified, so your referendum that you have on the table about maintaining people's property values and not letting developers come in and price you out and
Mm-hmm.
push you out, that's something somebody can hold on to. That's something somebody can relate to, because it's happening. And then even on the opposite end, you have a number of black people that are living in high rises now where their properties are going down.
Mm-hmm.
People are going in there and buying up units, and selling the units for less and less money. And so their property values are going down.
Mm. Well, that's why it behooves us as a people to bring all of the stakeholders to the table. We need to sit down in a room and lay out a strategy on how we're going to turn this thing around. And the good thing about all this stuff, it can be turned around. That's the good part. So it's going to be important for us as the adults in the room. We got to act like adults. And we got to show the next generation we care about them. They don't think we care about them. And then a lot of them have no respect for our generation.
Well, for one thing, we have allowed our educational system to be compromised.
Yes.
Okay, if we're talking about racial equity, how does education play into that? It's very important.
Mm-hmm.
And we have allowed them to close 50 schools here in Chicago, put over 10,000 Black teachers out of work, cut programs that our children need or have a right to have. We've allowed all of this to happen.
On our watch.
That's
Yeah.
right.
And young people,
And so,
they see
no,
this.
and they're getting the effects of this, and then they're going to college and coming out and can't get a job, and now they're talking about giving people 50-year, Fannie Mae talking about giving people 50-year mortgages.
That is the craziest thing I heard.
That's
That
bizarre.
is beyond scandalous.
So how do
That's
you begin to organize, against this?
Well, I think you begin to organize against it by us creating our own pool of money, whereby we don't worry about what the Federal Reserve says about interest rates. We develop our own. So if we develop our own, that means you come to us, you're going to get a 3%, 2%, 3% interest rate. That's it. You can't go beyond 3%. So you can buy you a house. But in the meantime, we still got to overhaul the property tax system throughout this country. Because as Andre Perry is the leading scholar at the Brookings Institute on housing. And him and his cohorts wrote an article on how property taxes has developed a new racial wealth gap. That's serious, folks. When Joe Barrios was our county assessor, he stole from us. We did not recoup the money he stole by increasing our taxes, by overvaluing our property and overtaxing us. The former person that was over the Federal Reserve, Alan Greenspan. Alan Greenspan and Ronald Reagan stole $2.2 trillion from us when it comes to Social Security. None of that money got paid back. So when you have stuff like this and nothing is done about it, it makes you look at our society a little bit different. Just like our last oldest person from Tulsa died recently.
that's right.
They did not get the just due that they were due.
Mm-mm.
Okay. Now we're in a situation we can't afford to let another Tulsa, Oklahoma happen again. But if you notice, it's happening right before our own eyes. Because when they can take our property by overtaxing us, devaluing our property, or overvaluing our property so they can raise taxes, that's Tulsa, Oklahoma without the bombs.
Exactly.
And
Right.
this is the mindset that we have to utilize to look at this thing from a different lens. And thank God for the NAACP still around to this day. And one of the things that I like about Gary is the fact that Gary understands that we have to make the NAACP relevant.
Yeah, that's right.
A lot of folks don't think we're relevant, but we are. Okay. And like you mentioned, our Supreme Court Justice Thurgood Marshall, he was one of a kind. And the sister that's on there now, Miss
Yeah,
Jackson,
Bell. Yeah,
she's
she's excellent.
she's the smartest one on the court.
She is. I agree.
Okay? We need about 9 more like her on that court. Okay. But we have to begin to understand that if we're going to overhaul this system, we're going to have to come together and do like the Hispanics. They put 100,000 Hispanics in the streets in the loop, and most of them was not legal citizens, but they put 100,000. Where is our 100,000 black people in Chicago, in Illinois, fighting to overhaul this system? Because my grandbaby's 9 years old. I don't know what type of state we're going to leave her and her cohorts. As the adults in the room, we are like we the children and not the adults. But it's our job. And I say to people, look, I know you don't have children no more, but it's all our responsibility to pay to educate these babies. Now, our issue is how we go about doing it. And property taxes is not the best way to do it unless you come from a property tax rich community. And if that's where you come from, don't none of this stuff phase you. You don't care if that black child is getting a good education. Same thing with the medical industry. They don't want us. They don't want us to have medical insurance. I was listening to 820, the progressive station. The woman said what Tom Harmon always said. The reason we don't have universal health care because white folks want us to die. And they don't want us going to the hospitals. And they don't want their money paying for us to stay alive. But if we had universal health care, that would cut into property taxes because your property taxes fund the medical benefits of your retirees from the local level to the county level to the township level and all of your other units of government other than the state. The state fund their stuff by the state income tax and all of the different fees they get on the state level. But if we had universal health care or Medicare for all, you cut property taxes again. And people got to understand this. And it's something we don't seem to comprehend.
Well, the issue is that our expectations are pretty low when it comes to healthcare. You know,
Yes.
we like I was telling you, I don't mind telling people, but we pay $800 a month for me and my wife for healthcare.
Mm.
800 a month. You know, that's what 10, 8,000, $9,600 a year, whether we're sick or not. And then we still do co-pays. But that's the nature of our healthcare system. We
Yep.
have a monetized healthcare system. We don't have a healthcare system designed to save people's lives. It's designed to make money.
Yep.
Until we fix that, that's how it's going to be. And of course, African Americans are going to suffer the most because we'll never have the top tier health care on average. You know, we'll always be struggling, and that creates a lot of stress. We was talking about something earlier, and I wrote down. You talked about people working multiple jobs just to
Yes.
make it, and then
Yep.
by the time they get home, they don't
Mhm.
have time to think about anything but how they gonna make it through the next day and the day after that. That stress level creates sickness in the black community.
Mm-hmm.
The research they just did about something might hit home here, prostate cancer. They said the reason we have so much prostate cancer in the black community because the stress level is so high for everybody, including African American males, trying to just live in the society. So these are the kind of things we really have to be cognizant of when we start having programs. You want people to come to the meetings and want them to become active. I beg them to get in and be active. Sometimes I tell them, look, if you join and become active, I'll pay the $30 a year for you. Because if you're active, That's what we want, active people. If
Yeah.
you join, you soon become a member and pay your $30 dues a year, then that's okay too. But we need people willing to get in there and do the work that's necessary, reach
So
out to the community. So that's
so
one of the
what do
things.
you if people come to NAACP meeting, what does that look like in terms of them getting involved? What can that look like?
Here's what it looks like. I'm not going to tell you the meeting because it's a regular meeting. We go through the regular things every time we have a meeting. We have to go through. We talk the president. I get my report, the vice president report, and then the chairs do their report. But we need what we want are people who get in and become an active member. And we have 23 different uh, committees, and you can chair each committee. Now, each committee is supposed to have at least one chair and at least two people in the committee, but we don't have that. We only have that for one committee, and that's the economic committee. And we have like seven people to join that, and you can join. Look, we I'm a member of every committee because I'm the president. I can go to any one of them, and I'm also the environmental chair because I have a background in that particular science, and I also do the web page and I also do social media, and I'm trying to push this off on people, and we just don't have anybody to do it right now. We have a lot of people in the branch, but we don't have a lot of active people. That number is growing though. We got a lot of younger people coming in, and when I say younger, they're like probably in their 50s or
So
early
are
late.
they coming in with expertise,
They're
or
coming in
are
with
they just coming in to volunteer because they, believe in what you're doing and they want to be
both.
supportive?
Both. We get people coming in with expertise and background in political science, and so they become part of the political action chair. We have people coming in with background in technology, and they want to do the website now. Got somebody wanting to do the website. So the point is, we need people who want to be active, but also we need members too,
Well, take
because the
this
members.
opportunity, Gary, to tell us what some of the committees are.
Oh my goodness. Uh, there's the political action chair. You have the environmental chair. You have legal redress. You have criminal justice. You have anything you can think of. Med- uh, health chair. We have health chair, and we have 23. And I would have to open up the bylaws book and list them all to you. What I can do is I can share the bylaws with everybody, and they list all the chairs. But there's 23, and what I've done as president is this. We have a veterans chair that's open. What else?
What about a business for businesses?
Yeah,
Well, we have what's that?
that's the economic committee.
Yeah, economics. Yeah, and we have housing chair. Anthony is the housing chair now because he's working on something that's related to housing. And the thing is this, what I've done as president, I tell people if you have something that you really believe in and that you want to work on, you join us and we'll find a way for you to work on it, as long as it's within the bylaws in, of the NAACP. In other words, you can't come in and do things that break the bylaws or something that's not really part of NAACP. But if you have a passion for something that's related, then come in and we'll find a way for you to work on it. Because the thing is, what we need, as we described, there's so many issues, so many things, and anything you work on related to the Black community that makes it better, that'll make it better rather, that is what we'll allow you to do. And that's what I've done as president. Now, a lot of presidents don't do that, but that's what I've done. And it's their prerogative to say, we got to be this. And sometimes they won't even let you have a committee if you don't have two or three people in that committee. So you can't just be the chair and with no people. But we can't do that because we don't have the resources. We don't have the young people, and then the young people we do get, a lot of times they're still working, and they got children, and that becomes a thing too. It's not an issue, but it's the truth that we have to work with. So and that's one of those things. And look. I'm retired. I've been retired for a while, and for me, I can do I'll do just about anything I need to do to make the branch run better and do what needs to be done. And my vice president, second, first, he's retired too, and we have a few, we quite a few retired people in the branch, and so, but then there's the retirees, and then there's the energy level. We need that energy level from the young people, because that's what we want. And I go out and I talk to everybody. I will stop people on the street, give me one of my cards, and say, "Just join this branch." In fact, I almost took away two members from the state conference, Springfield State, the Kankakee branch, because I started talking to them. I said, well, we already members. I said, what branch? They said, Kankakee. I said, come on, join my branch. Dropped them, So that's some of the things we go out. I'm trying to do as president. I want to get as many people in the branch active as possible. Uh, and it's just one of these things. And I have to tell you something that you should know. And from a member who's rejoined, I guess he's always been a member. He came back, and he was a member in 1979, I think he said. In 1979, our branch had 1,500 members. So
And how many do you have now?
now we have about maybe 170 at the most. But it ranged between 155 and 170.
What
And
happened?
That's a good question. That's a good question. What happened? And you have to. One thing we have to understand. I probably shouldn't be saying is that you have to be cognizant of the people who lead that branch. You have to make sure that people that come in are dedicated to the mission. And a lot of times they aren't. We've learned to spot those people right away. And so me and my vice president, we do that all the time. And so sometimes they come in for other reasons, not to fight the fight that needs to be fought for the Black people in this country. So what we do is we kind of we spot them, then we say, look, you know, and but the thing is, you have to be dedicated to the mission. The tax doctor Anthony he's one of these people that I really admire, because his dedication to doing what's good for the community is something that you don't see in everybody. You see it in a few people, but I'm on the same page with him, because I understand what he's doing, and I understand what he's saying about the tax problem, because I've done a lot of research, prompted by him or sometimes, and it turned out the state of Illinois is in a death spiral. It's a death spiral. It's spinning down, and it's just getting worse every year. And if we do something, it's going to get terrible, to the point where instead of having a few people losing their homes, you're going to have hundreds of people losing their homes on a yearly basis. And so that's the kind of thing we want to avoid. So,
as well as Black businesses closing.
Yeah, Black businesses.
Black businesses closing. And if the Black business were to come to the NAACP, what kind of supports or guidance could they receive?
Here's the thing. The thing what I do is, and I don't know if other branches do it, what I do when I see a new Black business, I go in and I ask for a flyer. And what I do, I say I'll put your information up on our social media. I'll send it out to the branch members, that there's a new business open, and that's what I do. Now, I don't know what other branches do. When we try to have events, we try to, go and use Black businesses. And sometimes, because of the cost differences, we don't always do that. But if we get in a certain position, we will do that often. One of the things we've been talked to about, and I have to admit that they want us to do a Black venue when we do our Freedom Fund, or we do our fundraisers, So, and we typically find the cheapest area, the cheapest place, because it is a fundraiser. We're trying to raise money for the branch and for our members, so they can travel and go to the national conventions and go to the events that we have to go to and become re-energized. When you go to a national convention, you get re-energized because you're around everybody, like-minded people, and everybody's talking about what they're doing, talking about their efforts and what needs to be done. And you get that energy, and you come back energized. You're ready to come back and get out there and start punching out the problems. And that's why I say we should have money in our branch so we can send people out to these events. So that's one
So
of the things.
how can people get in touch with you if they're interested, if they want to ask questions about being a part of the NAACP or want to become a member of the NAACP? How does that happen?
Well, one of the things I did was on my business card, I put a QR code so they can join. Just use my business card. That's one of the things I've done. And one of the things we have a website, and then we do have a Facebook uh, presence. We do have Facebook presence. So, and I think I'm gonna set up a YouTube account too, so you can go on if you can see us on YouTube and join through YouTube also.
So
So
where would they go to the
on Facebook,
NAACP?
yeah,
What would be the address?
all you have to do is search for NAACP CFSSB, Chicago Fire South Suburban Branch, and you just put the initials in. It'll pop up in Facebook. And in fact, you just do a search on a web search, and it'll come up. And what happens is you'll go to our website and you have a membership page, membership. You can click on the membership icon, and you go right to membership, and you can join. And we also have a page out there for the tax doctor, and it's called Saving Illinois. So that's and I should say this before we get done, that the reason we have a page uh, for the for taxes, for the property taxes, that we got a resolution passed through national. So in our and one of the resolutions is for property taxes because of the way they affect Black people, not just in Illinois. Illinois is one of the worst cases, but in almost every large urban area where you have Blacks, they're suffering because of property taxes. So that's not just here, but we do have the worst case scenario here. So we got a resolution passed, and I worked with the tax doctor, and we got it written up, and national said yes. So it's a national initiative through NAACP, and that's one of the ways we basically create a resolution so it guides the branches on what they should be working on. So you look through the resolutions, and if it's appropriate for you, then you have to go ahead and work on that, which is what the resolutions are for. They acknowledge the fact that there is an issue.
So Gary, what is the greatest benefit of being a part of the NAACP?
Personal, or you just in general? Because personally, for me, I mean, my personality has always been one of these. I like helping people. I'll do just about anything to help somebody. I don't even have to know you. You come up and you ask me for $10, and
Okay, so
if I have it, I'll do it. And for me, to help people, especially the Black community, it's just part of my personality. Now, the other benefit is that you become a part of an organization that's been around for over 100 years, and it's been working on solving the problems that we see in this country because of how they started out with a flawed democracy. A flawed democracy. And so we have this flawed democracy, and we've been working to fix this thing for over 100 years. And so you understand, what we're all about. You become part of that whole organization, and you have a knowledge base of thousands of people. I mean, we have what 2,000, 3,000 branches or something like that. I can't remember the number, but we have all over the country. So what happens is you become a member of an organization that's fighting for the rights of Black people and consequently for all people, because that's what happens, and we've seen and we know that.
well, like I
So
said, people need to see tangible benefits. I would definitely invite you to come back again. It would be nice to give a run along from the time that the NAACP started up to now, just to show all of the things that the NAACP have
yes,
done, their
yes, we can do that.
accomplishments that have impacted our communities. So people see the benefit, because a lot of times you join these organizations and people want you to pay money, and you pay your money and everything just drops.
Right.
Right. Well,
Everybody needs money at the beginning of something, and they ask
right,
you to
right.
pay, and where's it going? So we would definitely Well, thank you for coming tonight. We'll invite you to come back
Thank
again.
you for having
Tax
me.
Doctor, do
Yes,
you have some ending remarks here?
yes. I want everybody to know that Senator Letitia Collins from the 5th Senatorial District is going to carry the water for the bill to have a study done so that we can move away from property taxes on how we fund our schools. And we're also looking for legislators to carry the other bill, which is to look at consolidating school districts. I know that's a nasty word to a lot of people, but you know what, people? It needs to be done. And units of government needs to be done. Let me leave you with this. We didn't make this stuff up. The governor, our governor, told us in 2020, he gave us three words: consolidation, liquidation, and the transformation of this system. We have to make these three words come alive. And we got to hold these elected officials' feet to the fire. Now, I ain't got nothing against the immigrants, but I will say that the Speaker of the House and your rep or your senator voted for House Bill 1312. It was a shell bill called the Migrant Protection. We're saying to the Speaker, if you enthusiastically say you were so proud to be the chief sponsor of that protection bill, the black community need protection from these taxes. Be just as proud to support us, take care of us as you are other groups.
Absolutely.
Absolutely right.
We have a lot of work to do. Educating our people is going to be very important. And the work that you're doing is very important. And we have to find a way to support one another,
Absolutely.
and stay on course.
Yes.
So often we start these types of movements, and then we drop. We have to stay on course. And I do want to say, family, as you know, we're a nonprofit organization here at Repair, Restore, and Grow Black Communities, as we work to enhance the awareness and support of our businesses, because we want those dollars circulating in our communities. We
Yes.
support our Black bookstores. We talk about knowledge. There is knowledge in books out
Yes.
here that we need to be reading. And we have a number of Black bookstores here in Chicago. We feature a Black bookstore on our website. The Black bookstore for this month is still Afriware, and you can go to afriware.com, and they have a plethora of books to read. Our book giveaway is the Sada Shakur autobiography by Asada Shakur. And so we still have our book giveaway going, and we support the Southside Community Federal Credit Union. You talked about having our own money and putting our money together. We have a Black financial institution here on the South Side of Chicago that have been working in the community diligently for over 20 years. How about encouraging some of your members to open up accounts at the Southside Community Federal Credit Union? They're located at 5401 South Wentworth. They have added on more products in terms of loans, different types of loans. They have accounts for children as young as 7 years old, and they give financial literacy classes there on Saturdays. So we need to be supporting our Black banks or financial institutions that we have. We can start there.
That's right.
And then
I
we also
agree.
ask you to go to rrgbc.org, where you can donate to our organization, because it does cost for us to bring this podcast to you. We have three. It's just three of us, and we're dedicated. We're devoted to this, and so this mission. And so our podcast is open. Tax Doctor, whenever you want to come back and continue to share information about these taxes,
Yes, ma'am.
that's very important. And Gary, you as well, in terms of what the NAACP is trying to do in this moment and time, we'd be happy to have you to share that information as well.
Will do. Appreciate it.
Thank you so very much,
Thank you.
Denise. You are a pearl, a rose, a gem, whatever adjective I can think of. You are a fantastic queen.
Well, thank you very much. And what I have learned since I've been out here doing this work, we got a lot of people out here doing this work. We just not connecting. And I don't know how we're gonna make that happen, but it's a lot of people out here. I am in awe of some of the work that they're doing, and we have to find ways to connect. We got to get that mindset of being supportive of one another.
Connections. Yes, you're absolutely right.
Okay.
You know what? You just gave me an idea. I think we're going to get together. I'm going to talk with the branch and with the state about having a huge meeting just to connect with everybody.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Absolutely.
You just bring everybody in and have a discussion or have a program and talk about what they're doing, and we talk about what we're doing, how we can integrate what we're doing together.
Absolutely.
And you know, when you form an army rather than you have a bunch of small troops here, troops there, we have an army working, and we need to do that. And that is one of the things. When I first became president, I wanted to collaborate with everybody, but I was doing it by myself, and it was so difficult at the time. So I didn't have time. But so that is what I've always wanted to do, because there are other, like there's Soul, the group called Soul. They were so happy because I went to one of their meetings, online meetings, and I didn't realize it because they were looking to collaborate with us for a long time. I was the first one that reached out to them, first person, president that reached out to them from any branch. So, but yes, I agree.
Yes, absolutely.
We're going to do it, Anthony. We're going to tell Tricia about that.
Yes.
We can integrate them into our other grant program too.
Yes.
We can do that too. So
all right,
we're going to do that.
Thank you for coming.
Yes. Thank
you.
And remember, support Black businesses.
Yeah.
Right.
Thank you.